Hello, my name is Mathias, and welcome to the weekend walkthrough, where I take you through what happened in this weekend's Premier League matches from a fancy Premier League perspective. And this game week 35, was a really interesting one, and it was really strange because most of the popular fancy Premier League picks did not do that well. Meanwhile, a lot of the players that aren't picked by barely anybody got a lot of points. I'm talking Taiwo Awoniyi, we're talking Tom Kearney, we're talking Totti from Wolverhampton. We're talking a lot of strange players that got a lot of points this game week. So if you for some reason did like a free hit and brought in a bunch of random players, you probably did a lot better than most of us other fantasy Premier League managers, because there were a lot of weird results, a lot of weird players stepping up, and yeah, just a bunch of strangeness. So we'll just get straight into it with the first match, which was kind of weird. Like the outcome of 3 points to Man City against Leeds was not that weird, but only 2-1 for Man City was kind of strange. But as far as the game goes, it was a pretty typical Man City versus Leeds game, where Man City were all over Leeds and destroyed them completely, but just couldn't score at all. And then they conceded a weird goal at the end anyway. So I think Haaland had like his most big chances in a game so far this season. He had 3 big chances. He could have had a penalty as well and had another big chance, but he decided to give it to Gundogan, who scored the 2 goals for Man City. So Gundogan scored 2 goals. That's another player who stepped up all of a sudden. 2 assists from Mahrez. So well done to anyone who punted on him. But Haaland missed a bunch of good chances. De Bruyne had a lot of good passes and could have had a lot of assists. But City kept missing chances. And that's why, as you can see from the expected goals numbers, City should have won this game by a lot more than 2-1. But it became really interesting in the end, because Gundogan was already on his 2 goals, and Haaland decided to give the penalty to Gundogan rather than taking it himself. And Gundogan missed the penalty, and then straight away after, Leeds score, and it's 2-1, and it's game on. And Guardiola's super mad at Haaland for not taking the penalty himself. So I think it's safe to say that Haaland will be taking penalties going forward, unless it's Mahrez, because I think Pep mentioned that Mahrez is also one of the penalty takers for Man City, but most likely it's going to be Haaland going forward. So Haaland, not that it really matters anyway, because pretty much all of us have Haaland as captain anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference what he does. But he ended up with a blank 2 points, so you'd be much better off if you picked someone like Salah. I know a couple people did, so well done to you. We'll get to Salah eventually. But yeah, Haaland didn't do well, but Leeds didn't really do all that either. First game under Big Sam, and they sort of look not that good still. So yeah, they didn't concede that many goals, but they should have conceded a lot more goals. But Man City away, it's tough to judge a manager off that performance alone, so can't really say much about Leeds in that game. But anyways, moving on to Bournemouth against Chelsea, and we have another interesting result. Chelsea won a game after 6 straight losses. They managed to win against Bournemouth, and it was a game that could have gone both ways really, but in the end it was sort of a, I guess it wasn't a decisive win for Chelsea, but it was kind of deserved in the end as well. But at 1-1, it was actually really close, and Bournemouth had a couple good chances to score the leading goal. I think Dango Ouattara, who has the best non-penalty expected goals involvement in the game, with 1.12, he had a header from really close range that went over the bar, and he also had another almost assist right after that as well. But Bournemouth couldn't get the decisive goal, and Chelsea could. So that's why Chelsea can breathe a huge sigh of relief, because they are actually staying up now. I don't think there's any feasible way they go down with the 42 points that they do have now. And I know that's not what Chelsea fans would have wanted to hear before the season, but at this current time, I think Chelsea fans will just take whatever they can get. And what they did get was some real throwback performances on the goals, especially from N'Golo Kante, who did the cross for the first goal. Really nice cross to Gallagher. And also on the last goal, where Sterling did an amazing run with the ball. And Sterling, he usually performs against Bournemouth, and he did so yet again. He passed it to Joao Felix, who scored a really nice goal for him. He's not had the best of times with Chelsea, and he's probably not going to stay with Chelsea either. So it's a nice send-off for him, I guess, to score the winning, or not, like the clinching goal against Bournemouth. So in the end, Bournemouth still looking a lot better going forward than defensively, and they got punished by Chelsea, who, again, which should be noted with Chelsea, is that Ben Chilwell was actually injured. So yeah, his performances going forward will probably be hampered by that. If he even plays at all, he's going to struggle a bit. But anyways, that's what we have to say about Chelsea and Bournemouth. Decent win for Chelsea. Unlike for Bournemouth, but both of these teams are staying up anyway, and they don't really have much to play for the rest of the season. So Moving on to two other teams that might not have too much to play for. I mean, Aston Villa were sort of closing in on Champions League spots. They could still get Europa League. They could still get Conference League, the super important tournament that I, as a West Ham fan, especially know. It's so important. Winning a trophy, it's the best. But jokes aside, West Ham jokes aside, Aston Villa would be feeling a lot better about themselves if they had won this game, because they really should have. Really, if you look at the expected goals, better numbers, but in the end, Wolverhampton, they scored from a pretty strange situation. I write in the notes there, dastardly Dawson diversion. Not only is it good alliteration, it's also what kind of happened with the goal is that right before the goal, it was a corner, and the referee kept telling John McGinn that he should stop holding onto Dawson, because he kept like holding tight onto Dawson, like grabbing his shirt and everything before the corner. And Dawson, obviously, the smart man that he is, goes down as McGinn is holding him during the corner. And while everyone is focused on that, they don't notice that the ball is going to the back post, where Totti, the left back for this game, goes on to win a header and header it into the bar and down. And that's the opening goal for Wolves, and that ended up being the winning goal for Wolves against Aston Villa, because Aston Villa couldn't score. They had some huge chances. Ollie Watkins, who has struggled a bit the last few game weeks, he had a big chance with his head, headed it straight onto the goalkeeper, straight onto Jose Sa. And Tyrone Mings as well had another huge chance in the second half, yet again from a set piece. He got to do like a volley from 7-8 yards or something, and he went over the bar as well. So yeah, unlucky for Aston Villa in that game, but again, Wolverhampton, kind of a weird team, and they win the derby, the Birmingham derby, because both of those teams are from there. So anyways, next match, Spurs against Crystal Palace, kind of a boring game and kind of a boring typical Kane result, scoring a boring header and his boring celebration. Like, I think Harry Kane's celebration is like the least fun celebration of all time. The jump and then the I don't understand the celebration. Like, why is that his signature celebration? But anyways, it is effective for Kane. He's been such a good player this whole season. If it wasn't for Haaland, people would be singing Kane's praises so much, both in FPL and in Premier League terms. So yeah, he's an amazing player. Got a huge, nice cross from Pedro Porro, who's been really good for Spurs, at least going forward. He's really terrible defensively, but offensively, he's really good. And he showed that again against Crystal Palace. And they didn't really have to defend that much against Crystal Palace, because Crystal Palace have looked really good offensively since Roy Hodgson took over. But in this game, they couldn't really create much. They had one big chance, or one good chance, I think. I haven't actually checked the big chance stats. But they had one really good chance with Esse, where it was a pass towards Elise on the far post. But Esse did like this weird back heel touch that ended up being like a super nice touch. And it just shows you how gifted of a footballer Eze is. But I think if he would have let that pass go to Elise, I think that would have been a goal. But instead, Eze had to do like a rushed shot and shot it wide. So no goals for Crystal Palace in this game. But yeah, Crystal Palace's season is also kind of over. We're just looking at them in terms of next season for FPL. And I think Eze is going to be one of the better picks for next season, as will Harry Kane and Pedro Porro. Son also had a decent chance. Got passed through and could have scored one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but didn't score. But yeah, Son has been looking a lot better lately as well. And I think it also should be noted with the fullbacks for Spurs, especially Pedro Porro, who seems like a more certain player in the starting lineup than Perisic. He seems like a great option for the last few game weeks as like a punt. So he's another good option. Moving on to the next set of matches. The final match on Saturday was Liverpool against Brentford, and as you can see from the expected goals, it seems like Liverpool were just all over Brentford and dominated the game. But this is why the expected goal stats can't really be trusted on face value alone, because Brentford had a lot of like good opportunities, but just the final ball was missing. Like every single cross, every single final pass attempt ended up with going to either Alisson or going over everyone or going to no one. They even scored a goal, but it was ruled offside for Mbeumo was barely offside. So Mbeumo averaged a tease. He scored a goal. Everyone thought he scored, but it proved to be offside. As for Liverpool goes, that's weird English, but as far as Liverpool goes, Mohamed Salah scored the winning goal. Still proving to be a good fancy asset. He's not only a penalty merchant, as he has been dubbed sort of by some people. The last few game weeks, he actually scored a regular goal. It's a nice cross to Van Dijk, who headed it over to the back post to Salah, and Salah had super high XG for that goal, because he really fluffed the touch or the finish on the first one, and then from like 1 or 2 yards out he just shot it into the goal as well. So easy goal for Salah. And that proved to be the only goal. And Liverpool could have scored more. Obviously, as you can see from XG, 2.24 is really good. Trent Alexander-Arnold is another one who was really close to scoring. He was really close, especially with one chance where he shot it towards the top corner, and then David Raya with another outstanding save. David Raya has been probably the best goalkeeper this season, apart from potentially Alisson with Liverpool. So yeah, Liverpool winning 1-0 in that game. Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't get an assist this time. He had like 4 or 5 assists in a row before this game. But now, without the assist, he got the clean sheet, and he was almost a goal scorer as well. So I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is someone you really need to have in your squad. And I'm kind of kicking myself for not bringing him in. I brought in De Bruyne 2 weeks ago rather than Trent. And yeah, it's kind of stinging now because De Bruyne has not lived up to expectations. West Ham against Man United. My own favorite team, West Ham. They are secure now, and they are looking like themselves. They're looking like what they have been during the David Moyes era, the second David Moyes era for West Ham. And much of that is down to Mikel Antonio and, of course, Declan Rice. But more so Mikel Antonio. I think I made a point with West Ham. This is just a bit of a West Ham tangent for me as a West Ham fan. But I think West Ham have been as good as Mikel Antonio has been for the last 2 seasons. He was amazing at the start of last season, and that's when West Ham were amazing as well, winning a lot of league games, going far in the Europa League and all that stuff. But both at the start of this season and at the end of last season, Antonio was not that good, and West Ham were not that good either, and that's why they sort of struggled. But anyways, Antonio is proving to be just an amazing fit for David Moyes' system. Good strikers or amazing strikers like Sebastian Haller and Scamacca are struggling with West Ham, but Antonio is he's tailor-made for the David Moyes striking role, and that's why he's so important for West Ham. And when he plays well, West Ham play well, and he played well against Man United and had the best non-penalty expected goal involvement. So yeah, really good game from him. Also, have to mention Declan Rice. He's so amazing. I don't know how people can watch Declan Rice play and not realize that he's a top-class footballer who's worth at least £80 million. I think between 80 to 100 million pounds is probably the price range for him. I have to say, as a West Ham fan, I wish we could get 120 million for him, and yeah, I wish we could keep him most of all. But he's most likely gone in the summer, probably to Arsenal. But we'll get to Arsenal pretty soon. But before that, we got to talk a bit about Man United, who have looked a bit out of sorts lately. They have been decent defensively, but they conceded a really weak goal from De Gea, doing a massive error, just conceding a really easy shot from Benrahma. Somehow he slipped up when he was trying to dive to the right, and even though he got a lot of hand to the ball just went straight in anyway. Really poor from De Gea, and poor from Man United in general. They had some decent shots in the first half that went right outside the goal, from 2 shots from Anthony, I think, and 1 shot from Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes again looked like the best Man United player offensively. Rashford was kind of non-existent in this game, which was kind of strange, but Fernandes was closest to scoring, and Martial as well in the second half after he came on. He was also really close to scoring. Sabitzer and Martial started on the bench. Don't really know why. I think maybe they had some slight injury issues or something, but both of those guys are better than Weghorst and whoever they play in midfield, Fred, or can't even remember who they played in midfield, Casemiro, Eriksen, Fernandes. I don't know. I think Sabitzer is really good. That's my point. Anyway, so Man United really tried to score the equalizer at the end, but they couldn't. And other than that, West Ham were really the best team, I think, as a humble West Ham fan. I think West Ham were actually deserved winners in the end. And expected goal numbers are just telling that story as well. Another game where it was sort of more even than the scoreline says, and that's Newcastle against Arsenal. 2-0 for Arsenal, a really strong away win against Newcastle at St James's Park. A really tough team to beat at home, Newcastle, but they were really unlucky not to score. They started off both halves really good. Had a shot hit the post from Jacob Murphy, who I needed another reason to have the picture of Jacob Murphy. This memeable picture right here, there, as you can see. But yeah, Murphy, he's kind of been a standout player for Newcastle lately as well. He's scored a couple of nice goals. It's been really good. We keep forgetting that he used to be like a really big talent back in the day, but he's actually been a really good player for Newcastle. And now that Almiron has sort of tapered off, Murphy has sort of taken the mantle or taken the whatever you say. But yeah, he's taken over that all-around role of creating a lot of stuff from the right-hand side, and I think it's really good. Isak is also really good. He had a really nice header that was saved by Ramsdale. Ramsdale was one of the better players from Arsenal as well. But yeah, Isak really unlucky. Schär was especially unlucky considering he scored an own goal as well as not getting the goal offensively or getting points offensively. Schär has been like the best defender for Newcastle. He's been much better than Trippier in terms of FPL. Last few game weeks, Trippier has just been on a terrible run. I think he had like a run of like 14 out of 15 game weeks where he had point returns, and now after that he's had like 14 out of 15 game weeks where he hasn't had point returns or something. Like we're very strange from Trippier, especially going into the big double game week for Newcastle. So questions about what to do with Trippier, but I think most people will just keep him, I guess. So yeah. When it comes to Arsenal, I have to say Martin Ødegaard, fellow Norwegian. Some people say I look like him. Don't really see it, especially not now with this weird hair that I have. Yeah, I need a haircut, but anyways, that's a different story. But yeah, Ødegaard, I think personally, I think he's the player of the season for Arsenal. Most people would say Saka, but I think Saka sort of tapered off in the end. At the end of the season, he's looked a bit tired lately, and Ødegaard has just been amazing. And he took charge after the huge opening from Newcastle, where it looked like they were going to be the winning team. Ødegaard took the ball, shot it straight into goal, celebrated, as you can see from the picture, and yeah. Really happy. 15th goal of the season for him, which is crazy. Like, he was always the guy who didn't get enough goal returns. Like, didn't get enough goals and assists. I think that was the narrative at the start of the season. Like, he's assisting the assister. That was sort of the narrative around Ødegaard. But he's proven to be the best Arsenal asset in FPL Premier League, which is really interesting. And I think also he's been the best player for Arsenal, full stop, in the league. He's the captain. He's in charge. He's much more central, of course. Literally, he's more central than Saka, but he's also more central to what Arsenal do than Saka, I think, as well. So I think he's their player of the season. I think Martinelli has another shout for that as well. Did really well for the second goal, Martinelli. And really unlucky from Schär, like I said. And if it wasn't for Schär, I think the ball would have gone straight to Ødegaard on the back post, and Ødegaard would have scored another goal. So it would have been another huge haul for Ødegaard, who scored twice against Chelsea as well last week. So he's proven to be a really good player for those that kept faith in him. So yeah, Arsenal, really big win for them. Big disappointment for Newcastle, but Newcastle are still favourites to get into the top four and potentially even getting third place, because Man United are not looking good at the moment. And then the last few games, Monday's games, I watched all these games today. I'm recording this right after the finish of Nottingham Forest against Southampton, which was a really interesting game. But before we get to that, we got to mention the first match of Monday, and that is Fulham against Leicester. And I think this just sort of encapsulated what Leicester season has been like. It's been terrible defensively, and Everton, the last FPL School podcast, Kevin, Kimo, and I talked about how Everton was actually really good against Everton. Has been a much better goalkeeper than Ward, but he did his best Danny Ward impression in this game against Fulham, and the first goal that he conceded was super strange, like just a normal cross from Willian from a free kick. And no one's really even disturbing like the path of the ball. Like usually when free kicks go in from like 40 yards out from crosses, when the goalkeeper isn't expecting it to go into the goal, someone is there to like almost header it or something to put the goalkeeper off. But in this instance, Everton was just completely put off by no one really, and it was really strange for Everton, who, despite conceding 5 goals, only had 2 saves. So, well, I mean, I guess that's not that surprising considering he conceded so many goals. But like Fulham didn't really have that many chances, and they just made the most of them really, and that's partly because Everton had a really terrible game. He played like Ward. But other than that, Leicester, they've been terrible defensively all season, pretty much, except for that one stretch where Ward got a lot of points for some reason. But anyways, they've been really, really poor defensively, Leicester, and they've also been really interesting offensively. And as you could see from Maddison, some really good moments of brilliance from Maddison. I think he's going to be one of the players of the season in FPL next season. For probably if it goes to Spurs, he's going to be like an amazing point getter for Spurs. But yeah, he had an assist, he had a goal. He won the penalty that he scored. Vardy also had a penalty that he missed. And I think Maddison missed the penalty last game last time Leicester had a penalty in a game. He missed the penalty, and his penalty was actually worse than Vardy's. It's just that Leno went the other way this time. So yeah, I think it could have been 2 penalty saves for Leno if he had just gone to the same side. But yeah, Madison. Also, be remiss to not mention Harvey Barnes, who scored as well. Harvey Barnes has also been sort of up and down season. So Leicester, it's been an up and down season, and it might end up with them going down because they're really struggling to keep a clean sheet. Conceding 5 goals against Fulham, who don't have Mitrovic and don't have Andreas Pereira, is really alarming for Leicester, who really need to do something. Dean Smith really need to get everything in order now because they are not looking good. Team that is looking a lot better is Nottingham Forest, especially going forward. That's been the story of Nottingham Forest lately. Earlier in the season, it seemed like they were more like a 1-0 sort of team or 2-1 sort of team. But now it's high-scoring games pretty much every time Nottingham Forest play. And this game against Southampton was no different. As you can see from Southampton, 3.23 expected goals. They could have had a lot more goals, Southampton. But sadly, for them, they lost and they are now almost certainly going down. I think there are 8 points behind safety, and with 3 games left to play, they have to win everything and have pretty much every result go their way. So goodbye to Southampton. They've been in the Premier League for a bunch of seasons now. It's just been a downward spiral for a long time now. They fired Hasenhüttl, even though I think they have the worst squad in the league. Like, people say that Bournemouth have the worst squad in the league, but I think Bournemouth have a lot of good players, actually. And Southampton, I mean, Ward-Prowse is good. Romeo Lavia is amazing. He's going to go to a probably top 6 team. If he doesn't go back to City, he's going to go to like a top 6 team. He's amazing. But other than that, not really that many good proven players for Southampton. They have Kochap, who got injured, sadly, for them, who's been one of their better players as well. He was injured. And Nottingham Forest took full advantage of that, mostly due to Gibbs-White and Avoni. I think Avoni was like a really good potential striker option before the season, but he's been sort of a disappointment. But he showed in this game what he can do with 2 really nice, well-taken goals. And then Gibbs-White and Brendan Johnson, also 2 amazing players for Nottingham Forest. Those are the types of difference makers that make Forest a potential team to stay up and Southampton the team to go down. And Gibbs-White was amazing once again, and he's been getting point returns pretty much every game week, the last 2 game weeks. So he's been amazing. He's sort of a differential option for the end of the season, and more so next season if he stays with, or if Nottingham Forest stay in the league, or if they get relegated and he goes to a different team. I think Gibbs-White is top class, and he showed that with the 4th goal as well. A really nice backheel to Danilo, who scored a really nice goal as well. So well done to Nottingham Forest, but it was really close in the end. Southampton got a penalty, scored it with Ward-Prowse. And yeah, they really pushed on. They got 4 minutes added additionally to the 7 minutes that they got initially in injury time, which was really strange to me. I mean, they scored in injury time, but I don't think there was that much to give extra time for. But Forest managed to survive, and they might manage to survive in the Premier League as well with this result. Southampton, however, sadly, they're going down. I hope they get to rebuild and come back up again. I think Southampton is a Premier League club, and I think they should be back in the Premier League soon. But yeah, get well soon, Southampton. I hope you manage to find something in the Championship and come back a stronger team. And then the final game I want to talk about is the game that was in between Fulham, Leicester, and Nottingham Forest against Southampton on Monday, and that was Brighton against Everton. I just really wanted to highlight this game because it was a real shocker for a lot of people, especially for Fantasy Premier League players who had Brighton players. March especially. We're going to get to March soon, but we got to talk about the standout team in this game, and that was Everton, who looked amazing. For all of a sudden, Sean Dyche found out something away from home against Brighton, who have been like dominating pretty much every team in the league. I mean, you can see from the expected goal numbers, yes, Brighton have the better numbers, but that's because in the second half, Everton were sort of just defending their lead. They had 3-0 up at halftime, so they were just defending their lead, and they did really well to score 2 goals as well in the second half with Dwight McNeil, who is amazing. Bring us McNeil, as the old Futurama saying goes, if you've seen Futurama. But Dwight McNeil, he's been amazing. He's been the standout player for Sean Dyche's Everton in general. He's been so good. And the final goal he had, where he just blasted it top bins, amazing. And also the second or the 4th goal for Everton, his second to last goal, also really amazing. Just controls it, goes easily past the goalkeeper, and he can basically walk the ball in. So I think that goal by itself had like 0.97 or something XG. So that's most of where McNeil's numbers come from. But he also had assists in the first half. Really nice pass to Decore. He forced an own goal from Jason Steele. And that's a nice segue going into Brighton players and their misfortunes. Steele conceding 5 goals, including one of his one own goal from him. Really poor luck from Steele owners who've been getting a lot of points from him lately. But even worse than Steele is people owning Solly March, especially those that didn't have McAllister, because McAllister ended up getting the goal for Brighton in the end. But yeah, Solly March, before the game, De Zerbi said that Solly March is not in his best moment currently. And a lot of people were like asking, like, what does that mean? Does that mean he's not informed? Does that mean he's not fully fit? And we got the answer in the second half, because March didn't start the game, but he came on at the half and he played amazingly. So his form is unquestioned. He's been in amazing form, but after playing really well, he did do the mistake that led to the 4-1 goal. And in the build up to the 4-1 goal as well, after passing the ball away, trying to track back, his hamstring there was some issues with his hamstring and he had to stop and he had to be subbed off. So it seems like March is going to be out for the big double game weeks for Brighton coming up, which is a huge bummer for everyone that has March, me included. I do have McAllister, however, who scored the goal for Brighton. Really lucky goal, but McAllister, as you can see from the expected goal numbers, he was really unlucky not to score earlier in the game. Pickford had an amazing game for Everton as well. Had some really huge saves, including 2 saves from headers from McAllister, who could have scored. But in the end, the goal that McAllister got was a cross to Mitoma at the back post. Mitoma is almost putting it into the empty net, but he hits the post instead, and the ball hits the post and hits McAllister, who's lying inside the box, laying down after falling down from a challenge. And it hits McAllister in the shoulder and goes into the goal. So McAllister gets the goal there. Mitoma only gets the assist, and March only got a stretcher because he had to go off, and he's injured now. So that's going to be the interesting part going into the next game week. So on this FPL Scope YouTube channel, as it's called, we have a lot of different stuff coming up this week. Tomorrow we're going to have the weekly wildcard draft, where I take a look at what I think is the best team going forward in Fantasy Premier League for the final 3 game weeks. And then on Thursday, we're going to have the FPL Scope podcast with Kevin and Kimo, where we will talk more about what to do with Solly March for those of us that have him. Also going to talk more about the captaincy options in game week 36, which is the big double game week for Brighton and Newcastle, who play each other in the second fixture. It's going to be a huge debate about who's going to be the best captaincy pick. We're going to do a return of a feature that we've had in the past, Make the Case, which is sort of our like players to watch segment, but we're going to do like a Make the Case on the best captaincy options for game week 36. So if you want to watch that, I urge you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll get the notification when that is uploaded. You'll also get the weekly wildcard draft tomorrow. You'll also get my team selection video on Friday, I think it's going to be. So yeah, to get all that, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the YouTube channel as well, or you like the YouTube channel, like the video if you found it interesting. It's been a while since I did like a video on my own, because there were some issues last week. So yeah. Been a bit of a long one, this one, especially since I had all 10 games. I was originally going to do just the Saturday and Sunday games and have it as a video yesterday, but instead decided to wait for the Monday games, mainly because of the Brighton game, really, Brighton against Everton, just to see what the Brighton players did in the game. And it was really a huge game for those 3 guys, and especially with Brighton looking so strange as well. But anyways, that's me rambling again at the end of a video. So I'm going to thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.